Hi, everybody, and welcome to our session. Thank you for joining us for Scaling for Social Business Success, Combining Social Intelligence and Engagement, presented by Brandwatch and HootSuite. Just a few housekeeping items before I turn it over to our presenters today. We will be recording today's session, so we will make the recording and the slide deck available to you within about 2 business days after the session. So be on the lookout for those emails. And also, we will be doing a Q&A at the end of the session. If you have any questions, please send them to us through the GoToWebinar interface, and we will do our best to get those answered for you. So I'm going to turn it over to our first presenter right now, Kevin Zellmer from Hootsuite. Kevin?
Thanks, Drew. Welcome, everyone. Excited to have time today to talk about Hootsuite and Brandwatch. For my part of the session, what I'd like to do is just give you a bit of an overview on who Hootsuite is, talk about where we've come from and why we did this great partnership with Brandwatch. As you look at the slides here, Seb, if you could hit the button there, perfect. Hootsuite was started off in 2008. We're one of the first companies in the social media management space. It's now called the social relationship platform. And the goal was, how do you communicate across multiple platforms easily? As many of you know, we recently had a significant raise of $165 million. The company has been profitable since about the first quarter of business. We have one of the largest platforms in the sense of relationships when you look at Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, as well as industry or regional platforms across the globe. We have offices in London, Singapore. The platform itself is supported in 15 languages. We're on 6 continents, and we currently support over 8 million users. A vast majority of those are part of our free, but we have over 100,000 users that are paying us on a monthly basis. From a social influence, one of the things that we're very proud of is we think we use our platform like we want our partners and our customers to. We have over 5 million Twitter followers. I think the 321,000 Facebook fans is a bit dated, and over 200,000 unique visitors to our blog each month. So we are really practicing what we preach and getting out in social, leveraging it for your business, and really making sure that it is a valuable tool across your social media business strategy. When you look at Hootsuite, our goal is to help you manage the relationships and the engagement you have across all your social networks. Part of that is, how do you streamline and create workflow? How do you take an organization and provide the entire organization the power to be social? I think most of the people on this call today have started off in social, and it might have been a skunkworks project within a sales or a marketing organization. But only a few are really looking at, how do I take this functionality, how do I take this social platform, and how do I enable my entire organization to benefit, to amplify our messages, to engage our customer base. And when you look at that, you need to leverage partnerships, and we are very excited to be partners with Brandwatch and look at the social analytics and the deep listening. It's a functionality that allows you to really understand what you're doing well and what you could focus more attention on. It is a function that we have not been able to build. It is a very tough space. We haven't attempted. We knew that this is something that we must partner with the best in breed to do for our customers. To enable and to really look at enabling your entire organization, you need to have policy management and monitoring. There's some broad, very good policy management and monitoring tools that we've recently implemented that many of you on the phone may be aware of with our partnership with Netscape. But as you look at what we're doing with Brandwatch and how that ties into policy management and their policy management, it's a really what we think is a phenomenal differentiator in this space. You can't just enable 5 people or 10 people now. You need to look at what the CIO needs. What is your policies around your sales division versus your marketing division versus your HR division versus business operations? All have a need for social. All are using it in one way, shape, form, or another. There's some great opportunities to look at how do you manage device access and app access as well. As we continue to look at Hootsuite, And we'll look at this slide in 7. You can just hit the button there. Thank you. We look at it from building a reliable, scalable social foundation. Like, you have to have the tools. I was in a conversation yesterday at another conference, and what we continue to hear is that most people are not planning far enough in ahead. They think, oh, I'm just going to do this and it'll last me 6 months. They're not thinking, where do they want to be in a year, or where do they want to be in 2 years. And I think the partnership with Brandwatch and how we look at it as a company is, set your goals, look at what do you want to be, where do you want to go in social, and then let the platform enable you. Let the platform help you scale. Let the platform take some of the automated workload that it can manage off of your plate so you can grow better. And that may be in security or policy management and governance. There's integrations like we're talking about here today, support services. If you're a regulated industry, whether that's pharma or financial services, you have compliance issues. All those are the core of what you can do from a social platform and what you need to do in your social platform in order to go to those next steps and grow the business in the way you want. The other side of that is education, continuing education. And many of you saw Hootsuite just announced a partnership with Syracuse University and their Graduate School of Business. We're the first and only social media company to actually have curriculum at that level. It's now going to 1,200 different universities, where Hootsuite University is helping educate our customers' employees from the beginning, this is what you do as sort of a 1A class, all the way to that advanced curriculum for a journalism school, and they're going to come out and work for large organizations, large media outlets, newspapers, etc., and they're going to have the ability to leverage Hootsuite and Brandwatch within their lives going forward. On the insight side, we have at Hootsuite a broad platform for analytics, but as we're going to discuss today, it does not go into the depth that Brandwatch does, and we are very excited to be able to leverage the data that we gather from an engagement side into the analytics side. As I mentioned, we have over 8 million users. We have over 1,000 enterprise customers and over 110,000 small, medium business or professional customers out there, as we call them. Here's a list of a few of the large brands that we work with. Many of, or if all of them, are recognizable. Some of these we have, entire organizations where they're using the platform globally. Others it's locally or regionally, but nonetheless, you can see that large, trusted brands are leveraging Hootsuite to manage their social infrastructure and platform going forward. Seb, can you provide a bit of information on Brandwatch?
Sure, thanks for that, Kevin. So as we very briefly, we're going to get into some of the thinking that Kevin's alluded to there. Brandwatch has been around since 2006. We service around about 700 clients, both agencies and brands, direct across 15 markets. We do that currently in about 26 different languages, including Chinese, simplified and traditional, Twitter, Arabic, and so on. So there's a whole lot of different languages we cover. We have offices in London, Chicago, New York, and Berlin, and we have about 150 people really focused purely on the product set here you're going to see. And we are a certified product partner. So I just want to move forward and talk a little bit about something I thought was kind of interesting that came out recently. So Charlene Lee and Brian Solis recently updated their State of Social Business report, and the focus, or the focal point, is really still around that hub and spoke or multiple hub and spoke model, these two on the right here. And a number of our clients on the enterprise side are very much moving towards that. And in that sort of central role, in that central hub, it may be called a center of excellence. It may be an agency partner. It might be outsourced. It might be a social media team. It might be a cross-functional team. But what we're really seeing is brands are trying to use these models to scale social within the enterprise, and that's really a huge part of their challenge. And some of the things that they have trying to achieve with this is that in the central team, they have to be able to manage users and have sharing controls. But one of the real challenges is that they want to engage with as much conversation as possible, those conversations that can really bring them value. And there's been a focus around those initially really being the ones that are pointed at you. And so by partnering with HootSuite, what we're really trying to do here is enable them to engage with more conversations across more channels and drive business results from that. So whether that happens to be sales, better customer care, leading to better brand reputation, leading to better customer experience, all of these things are where we're helping to do this, and we're going to talk about how we do that in a second. Now, out of the spokes here, there's this requirement for customized access. So none of the teams really want their own view of social, their own view of the data. And at the same time, a central team has requirements to be able to report across all of the units. So again, some of the work we're going to talk about in terms of automation, in terms of categorization, tagging, prioritization, routing, and so on, is all about how to get the right information to the right team, present them with the right information so they can act at the speed of social. And this is what, again, where it's a great partnership. If I just move forward here, kind of how it looks from I guess from a technical perspective. And what we've classed here is an operating system. So as the information is going to come into Brandwatch, there is the social listening and analytics piece. And this is where we can have filtering happen. I'm going to walk through those different steps in a second. We're able to push the information through into HootSuite, and that's going to give the various teams, and I think in the recent report that Outcomes have put out there, around 13 business units now have some sort of resource dedicated, or lines of business dedicated to social. And that's a big change from where we started years back, when it was really purely PR and marketing that were driving the social agenda. And absolutely, as Kevin said, it's now what does the CIO need? What does the HR team need? What does legal need? How do we deliver across huge numbers of accounts in social, and do that in a coordinated manner to deliver a universal service level? And we also recently launched a product called Visio. We're not going to go into that today, but that's really about how we visualize, help organizations visualize data. One of the key elements is, once you have a setup like this that we're talking about with this integration, all three of these elements work together. They're synchronized. And not only that, but they are now synchronized and controllable from a single central team. And that's really one of the things that we allow to scale. So there are 6 main steps that we go through. There's really the gathering of the data. So we cover around about 70 million sites a day. It's 26, and we've got a new language coming out just now, so 27 languages just coming through. We have very powerful search operators, and this is one of the key underlying pieces. We're going to look at this when we go through the demo, but these are really about how we define what it is we want. We have filters that can segment based on content of the post, or based on metadata around the post. For example, the name of the author, the time of the post, where the post comes from, what the location of the post is, and so on. And as well as that, we can segment based on specific authors. These are people maybe that are influencers in our space that we want to look at. So there's advanced filtering capability. We can then automate those filtering actions, and those can be completely customized to the individual organization. This is what makes it, again, very strong. This is about shaping the solution to your business rather than being a cookie cutter approach. We then distribute that data into HootSuite, where you can then go through to the engagement side of things. And we're going to look at how that piece works as well. There's some really strong pieces, including templates for replies. And of course, then the next step is the analytics, which you have both strong analytics around your engagement and engagement effectiveness in HootSuite, as well as the broader listening capabilities you would get in Brandwatch. So this is a really smart way of working together. In terms of how clients are talking about using this, it's really a mix. Of course, we have the PR use case still, and we have that center of excellence, social media teams, customer service, command centers now, as well as B2B social sales and client retention, and lead gen on the B2C side, as well as community management. We're not going to be able to go through all these use cases today, but we're going to really focus on 2 or 3 different use cases. And we've spoken about a number of these things, so I'm not going to sort of hang around here, but realistically, it's all about how we scale. It's about how we enable you guys to scale, and do that in a way that can be controlled and managed that will allow you to deliver within the right response times that social really demands, and allow you to engage with more posts that deliver more value to your customers and to your brands. So on that note, let's hop into the demo. So we already talked about those sort of 6 stages, and we talked about the gathering of information. I'm not going to go through into stuff. We cover blogs and forums and videos and reviews and Twitter and Facebook and all those sorts of things you would expect. We want to focus on the filtering side of things to start with. So I'm going to go here and we're going to create a new dashboard and we're going to see just how easy that is. We're going to have a couple of different queries built out. I'm going to here look at a query looking at Verizon conversations. And one of the things that we're going to note over here on the right-hand side is I'm going to switch over to the mentions component. And we're going to see the data here come through. And then as that happens, on the right-hand side, I want to talk about some of the filters we have. So I'm here and here we go. So here we have something like, there are around about 97,000 conversations around Verizon. This is a little number up here, 97,424 conversations, give or take, around Verizon on the last 7 days. This really talks to the challenger scale. Not all of these conversations should be engaged with. This is also just their conversations. If we're being smart about social, we want to look at conversations we can engage with around our brand, around our competitors' brands, around topics where we have real value to add, as well as other sort of specifics, and we're going to talk about those a little bit. So the first thing is we can really bring the power of the Brandwatch filtering to bear here. So firstly is around content. Within these conversations, all these conversations around Verizon, we can actually search using our Boolean logic. We have around about 20 different search operators that allow us to do very refined searches and identify very specific types of conversation. That's really our first step on the way to reducing that 97,000 through to a number that is much more manageable. So let's just have a little example. If I wanted to find customer service conversations, let's be very simplistic about it. I wanted to find those conversations near to Verizon because I don't want just conversations that are more general. We can search for those conversations, and that's going to pull back people talking about customer service. All these conversations are now much more relevant. You'll also notice on the right-hand side, we have a lot of filters. So we can filter by things like sentiment, page type, author, down to either individual authors or specific authors. We also have things here around impact, different scores, forum threads, so that we can actually filter by the number of posts that have been left on a forum, or the number of views a particular thread has had, whether a blog has had comments left on it. And when we look at Twitter, we have a huge amount of elements that we can start to filter by, whether it be the number of retweets, the reach score, followers, the influence of a post or an author, and even down to demographics around accounts, verification, gender, profession, interests. We have site and locational information, so we can start to filter by locations. And we also have some workflow elements, and these elements come in a second. And tagging. So just within this one right-hand bar here, we're able to combine a few different elements. We're looking both at the content of the post, but also a huge array of pieces of metadata around that post. That's one of the things that's really key here. The next step we've talked about, so we spoke about filtering, is the ability to automate. Brandwatch has something in it called rules. If I just click down here, I've already got some rules created for this demo. Let's just have a look at what they're doing. So if I click on this rule here, you can see that I've got it's got a rule and it's got an action assigned to it. If we click on this This rule here is actually looking for customer service conversations or customer care conversations, or where people say serve or fail near to horizon. Horizon. We can also see that we're looking for anything that's been retweeted more than one time. So now what we're actually looking for is not just every post where people are talking about customer service. We're looking for those posts that talk about customer service that have had some level of engagement. Next thing the system allows us to do is select an action. So here we can say we want you to add a tag to the data, but I have a number of different options that I can do. I might want to say add a priority to this, in which case I can say when you find a post that talks about customer service or customer serve or fail and it appears near to Verizon, what I want the system to do is automatically, and it's had more than one retweet, I want you to automatically assign a priority of high. We can then give the name a rule. Once that the rule a name, once that rule has been saved, the system in real time will automatically mark up those posts, and it will add the priority to them. It's not limited to priority. We can have things like the sentiment change. We can add tags. We can add assignments even. If we just click an assignment here, we can see I have 3 different users on this particular account. So I can actually choose to assign a post to a user based on the content or the metadata around the post. As well as assignment, we have the priority that we've looked at. We also have the status. So we can also say that post is pending or open or closed. When we start to combine these things, so the advanced filtering and the automation, we then move to the next stage, which is the distribution. We know this is going to appear in HootSuite. So let's go to HootSuite and have a look at what we can now, how that looks over there. So here I have HootSuite open. I have a tab for customer care, but I haven't added anything yet. Let's go to my apps, and we can see we have Brandwatch. Just select that. It's going to add the stream. So I've already authenticated my account, which is a very simple process in itself, and I'm just going to click Login. We're going to allow system. What will happen here is it's going to give me access to the projects that I have in Brandwatch. So it's now loading those up. I have quite a few. And there's the project I want to work with, HootSuite integration. I'm going to scroll down here, and it's going to give me access to those queries I have access to as well. I'm going to click on Verizon. It's now going to pull all of the posts that it has in the system through, and we can see them here. Now, these are coming from blogs and forums and Twitter and Facebook, any site that we cover. So immediately we're expanding the coverage that you would have historically had in HootSuite. But the next thing is, as we spoke about, if we're bringing in 90 or 97,000 posts a week, that doesn't scale so well. So we allow very easy filtering from within the HootSuite application. So let's go down and have a look. I've already got posts, you'll notice, tags that appear here. So what's happening is we're using that content and we're using the other metadata that's automatically applying a tag. And so we can use that tag, or those tags, as filters. So let's apply here. So this is live data. So goodness knows what will appear at the top of this list as we look through, and it being carriers. It can often get quite spicy language. So let's see what comes through. So it's looking now for those tags, and you can see there are a number. The tags are already marked on here. Now I can also add my own tags in here if I want to. And of course I can remove a tag. So if I disagree with the way that the system has tagged the post, I can remove the tag, and that's going to update not just here, but back in Brandwatch as well. So the two systems are synchronizing with one another. Let's just get rid of that for a second. This is great. But which post should I be looking at first? Well, what we also need to do is filter by the priority level. So I click here on high priority. Of course, we've decided what's high priority based on the fact it's got, maybe it's already got, like we say, lots of engagement around it. Maybe it has lots of reach. Maybe the post has been from a specific author or an influencer. We get to decide what makes posts high priority for us as a business. If I click apply, we're now essentially filtering down from those 97,000 posts that we've had over the last 7 days. And we're filtering it down to those that are just the high priority ones. Now we can see these are the posts that we should be dealing with first. You'll also notice here we have the ability on the left-hand side to change the sentiment of the post. So again, if we disagree with the automated sentiment that Brandwatch delivers, we can override it here. That will go back to Brandwatch and that will change it back in the Brandwatch application. That means your central team, those analysts and power users that are doing the cross-brand or sort of wider analysis, will be consistent with those guys that are working in customer care or in the marketing teams. We also got elements of the assignment. So we can see here I've got a number of posts that have all been marked as high priority. But I can also decide if I'm a particular agent, I may deal with a particular business area. And I can also filter this down again and say, actually, I'm interested in those conversations that have been assigned to me. Again, the assignment happens automatically. So perhaps you have a team or team members that deal with particular parts of the product. In this case, perhaps if we're looking at Verizon, they're dealing with, someone's dealing with Samsung queries, someone's dealing with different queries for iPhone, and so on, insurance. And so we can really here, we can say, well, look, this has been assigned to me. Let me see what I've actually got. And again, it's going to filter it down. So we make it very, very easy for large teams to take huge amounts of data, pull that in, and actually completely restructure that data in real time so they get the right posts that should be for them, already prioritized, and ready for them to engage with.
And when you look at HootSuite, the fact that we can create teams in different hierarchies, that functionality that Brandwatch enables within the stream here allows those teams to get the information, and it really does make a smooth process that helps a company scale in social. As Seb said, with 97,000 pieces of information coming in, it becomes impossible to manage this without technology and without automation and scale.
And this is what you get when using hotel internet. But anyway, this will, when this comes through, you're able to look at different posts. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to a slightly different, into a different stream here. I want to look at something, a different use case. So let's here look at the PR use case. So we've got one query looking at Verizon data. And we've been looking at customer care posts come in, so people unhappy around the service. So just move this and start again. Shows how easy it is to build these streams in. Let's log in again. Let's just log in. Great. Allow that. And that will actually be okay. And select here from my projects, we're going to get offered up again. And when we're looking here at the projects, we're going to set the same project for the integration and the same query. So we're going to select Verizon again. We can get all of those posts that we had before, so that we're getting access to those full 97,000 posts. But this time, we can see we're getting lots of different things. You see this tag here. This is tagging as Verizon outbound. So every post that comes from an author, Verizon. And I'm able here to filter this down again. Now, if I'm in the PR team, I'm not necessarily interested in the customer care issues until they get escalated to me. What I can do here, however, is I'm looking at the recent issue they've had around healthcare.gov. And so we can click that tag. The system is automatically identifying any conversation around healthcare.gov conversations. We bring that through. What we'll see is that all the conversations now are going to come through as tagged for healthcare.gov, as we can see here. So we can now see how this story is is unfolding very, very easily. And we can see that what the conversations are around. Now, again, we might want to prioritize those posts. The priority requirements for PR may be different to priority requirements for customer care. So let's go in and look for high priority posts within these conversations. Which are the ones that we should be sort of looking at first? Now what we can see is all of the conversations that are coming through are talking about Joanne Peters. So Joanne actually works at healthcare.gov. And so what this is telling us is we're actually really interested in what she has to say. And what she said now is that the outage caused by Verizon, a data center issue, is now over. Now, we've got these marked as positive, but again, we may feel that that's moving a situation from what was negative to being a neutral situation. If we want to do that, again, we can click here, and that's going to update back in Brandwatch. So when we're looking at our sentiment charts and doing sentiment over time for analysis around this particular PR issue, they're going to be up to date. I'm also able here to manage workflow. So again, if we're working in a team within PR, I can go in here and can decide who I want to share this information with, these particular posts with. The priority is already set to high, and we can change that priority level. And the status can be set to open, of course, if we haven't yet dealt with it, and we can again filter each stream by the status, or whether something is pending, and we might want to close our issues out. They'll therefore be removed from any open or pending queues, but we can analyze that data at a later stage. So there's real control here. Let's just remove that. So again, we can see how we're able to use content and metadata to help us decide what we should be looking at first. All of this coming from that single data set, that one set of 97,000 odd posts over the last 7 days. So we've created a slightly different query here. And let's just remove this one and look here. Let's add this in. And let's just authenticate that. So, same thing. What we're going to see here is I'm going to select different queries. This is a different use case. In this use case, we're looking, again, we're sort of still in the B2C environment. But instead of it being something that customer care might want to deal with, or something that PR might want to deal with, this is something that our sales and marketing team might want to be involved with. So let's go in here and have a look at this piece here. But I've got a different query, and this query is called switching lead. Let's have a look at what this looks like. So this is a query that's been written to identify sales leads. This applies equally to B2C as much as it does for B2B. In this environment, what we're looking for is people that are thinking of switching. We're not looking for Verizon-specific conversations. Actually, we're really looking for people that are looking to switch away from one of our competitors. So we can see that we're getting posts here around people talking about switching from AT&T. They're talking about switching from Sprint and AT&T and so on. Now, each of these conversations really opens up an opportunity for us to engage, essentially when these people are in the consideration phase of a purchase. They're telling us they're looking at switching. Of course, this is a double-edged sword. We could also have a customer retention team who would be using similar data, and what they're going to be looking for is those conversations where people say they're going to leave Verizon. This ability, it really relies on really smart query strings. And if we just go back in here for a second, let's just go back in. I'm just going to log into the system. just close this. What we're able to do here, if I look at data and go to my queries, we can open this one up here, switching lead queue. What we're actually looking for here is intent. So people that are saying they're thinking or considering or might or will or looking for recommendations. We can use some very smart Boolean logic that we have, where people are saying, okay, but anywhere they're switching or changing or might make a change or a moving and so on. But that has to also appear near where people say from AT&T or ATT or from Sprint or for T-Mobile or T-Mob and so on. And we can actually do things like take out phrases like mistake and regret. So we're trying to we really want to filter out those conversations where people have changed already because we can't necessarily affect that, and where they say they're going to change in the future. And that intent, that's something we can really action. And then, of course, from here, what we can do is we're able to, if we just click on here, if we want to reply here to Gulf Media, we can reply straight from the platform here, from HootSuite. And if we wanted to, of course, we could also use templates. And Kevin, maybe you want to talk there about ways that you can use not just templates, but also files and links and those sorts of things, as well as tags.
Yes, as you look at the publishing functionality of HootSuite, it's very broad, and with the content library, you have the ability to segment what content you want your salespeople or your marketing people or your employees to send, and you can do that by language, you can do it by region. There's a number of different ways to do that. You can also tag content, so as you're measuring and monitoring, you could be using the same tags in HootSuite as you're using in Brandwatch so that sales leads and the workflow continue to mimic each other. You have the full ability to publish links, PDFs. You have within HootSuite the ability to obviously publish to multiple platforms, and you'll have an icon and a moving number that tells you where you're at within Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google+, whatever the case may be. But it is a broad functionality that really does allow you to customize based on your needs, or as we continue to talk about scale in the larger organization, the specific needs of that business unit, that regional group, or that end salesperson or marketing person.
And this is something that we use in our own organization. So we use this in a B2B environment as well as B2C. And we're using here, obviously, we're talking about switching conversations. But let's say if you're a brand in the retail space, if you're a brand like a Home Depot, for example, and part of what your value offering is being able to help people with their DIY tasks and lend advice. Then this stream might well be people talking about remodeling their kitchen or their bathroom. This sort of white space. This is before they've considered the brand, before they're talking about the brand, they're talking about the intent to purchase or the activity they want to take. So this really opens up a huge area for brands to expand around what they're engaging in, at the same time do it in a way that actually can scale. So I know we're just on around the sort of 20 minutes to go mark, so I wanted to open it up to questions, unless you wanted to add anything else in there, Kevin.
No, this was terrific. I think it was a great demonstration about how we're integrating so well together and how a Hootsuite user can leverage their Brandwatch platform, their Brandwatch implementation within a stream. So it'd be great to hear questions, and we're happy to spend the next 15, 20 minutes answering those.
Okay, first question that we have is, do we need to be Hootsuite and Brandwatch customers in order to have access to the integration?
Yes. In order to participate, there is no cost for the actual integration. If you are a Brandwatch customer and a Hootsuite customer, you can call your existing Hootsuite or Brandwatch rep, and we can enable it on the backside of Hootsuite. If you have one or the other, we're happy to have a conversation with you about how you can purchase the other.
And that's available on the across Pro and Enterprise accounts, that's right, Kevin?
Correct.
But on the Hootsuite side.
Correct.
Okay. And then our next question is, on Hootsuite, how can we create analysis reports using Brandwatch data?
So that's the best way to answer that without going into another whole demo is to have a conversation with myself, or if you're an existing Hootsuite customer, we can show where some of that data is going. But for the most part, when you're taking Brandwatch information, it's going to reside. You're pushing data from Hootsuite to Brandwatch for that analysis. Down the road, we'll do deeper. We'll continue to expand on this integration and possibly have some of the analytics functionality accessible through the Hootsuite dashboard. But for right now, the information that you have access to and can do reports on within Brandwatch lives within Brandwatch.
Okay. All right. And then another question: if you are a Hootsuite partner, do they have access to it for demos, to the integration for demos?
If you're a Hootsuite partner or reseller, you will have access to this, and you should talk to, depending on which region you're a reseller for, talk to your local Hootsuite person. I'm happy to jump on that call to go through this. We're just finishing some of the collateral for our resellers, but you should be able to do this in the coming weeks ahead.
Okay, great. And could you guys just review the slide that listed the use cases for somebody? And there was also a question about what was the sixth step that occurred after engage. So if you guys want to jump back to that.
Sure. So on some of the use cases that we talked about here, and we've looked at PR there and how PR teams will be able to use this. We talked there about lead generation and sort of these two sort of re-overlap, lead generation and B2B social sales. And then also on the customer retention side, of course, all those conversations we just looked at of people saying they want to leave AT&T or Sprint, we're looking at from Verizon's perspective. Of course, if we're AT&T or Sprint, that's a customer retention issue. And so we want to be involved in those. Now, interesting, there's some really good research around this space where they know that people who are engaged with brands are more likely to renew, engage with carriers, are more likely to renew their contracts and upgrade and so on. So there is a really good ROI use case down this line. When it comes to community management, again, the point I'm using this internally. We're looking at specific ones. My high priorities are influencers in our space, or people that we sort of really want to understand what they're saying at any particular time. So we're using it like that. And for the customer service one, we touched on that one in there. Command centers, slightly different, but essentially when you have that team of people, it depends how you're managing your command center, what you're doing with your command center. But this really comes into play very strongly there, especially because this will tie up with the visualization side of things. And then when we talk about centers of excellence, whether we call that social hub, center of excellence, however that team is made up, of course, having these systems that work together and being able to manage your internal customers with this is very, very strong. The other one was step 6, and let's just remove my webinar piece here so I can see this, which is the analyze side. And Kevin already touched on that. We had a question already on that. And when we start going into the analysis side, of course, there's a huge amount you can analyze, whether it be we want to analyze, in this case, we might want to analyze Verizon versus AT&T versus Sprint. We might want to analyze actually switching conversations down to handset levels. So we can say, okay, does the new iPhone drive more people to switch from one carrier to another? And what product line is that related to? You saw conversations there about UVerse and so on. And we build dashboards out that show exactly that. So you can really see very granular analysis. The other thing is just how effective is our activities being on the engagement side. Kevin, maybe you want to sort of talk about some of the analytics you have in Hootsuite as well.
Yes, so obviously there's a number of inputs that come into Hootsuite, and when you go as a user of Hootsuite, you have the ability to start segmenting those. You can use it by platform in the sense of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Google Plus, or others like Pinterest. You can go through and do some analysis based on region, based on the tags. You also have the ability to have some of your information, the information that is data for you, exported. So as you're looking at maybe other third-party sources of information that you have, you can combine those. And I think as you look at all of this data, especially when you start to break it down, as we've spoken to about scale and then about a specific group, the ability to condense that information that you're looking for and not go through every bit of data at once, but to go through by tags what you're specifically trying to solve for, or an issue that you're trying to work through, or a campaign that you're trying to measure. By going through and looking at that within the dashboard, it gives you a really good understanding of what's working. You couple that with what you can do now from a deep listening and what the 70 million other sources may be saying based on that tag. It's a really, really robust analytics offering.
I think the thing here is how they sort of how they pair. So again, you can provide as that central team. You can use, for example, shared view-only dashboards for your reporting analysis. So you can go into Brandwatch, you can create a dashboard, you can share it with a number of different users across the organization, and you can set it to view-only, so they can go in, they can see the information, but they can't change the information. You can even append, or you can also add text to that as well. So there's context around telling them what is happening in a particular chart. So you have the ability to do very, very deep analysis, really across all of the different stages that we've been looking at, and provide that access to people across the organization very quickly and very easily. It all goes back to that ability to scale. So when you can do that and you can change someone's report instantly and share it with people with the right permissioning, it becomes very, very powerful. And that really does, like we said, drive that scale side of things.
Okay. Thanks for that, guys.
Great.
Yep. Moving on to the next question. Can you talk a little bit about performance, specifically with regard to large data sets?
Yeah, I mean, we were just running 97,000 posts. That analysis was running over. That's 97,000 posts in 7 days. And so it was at 400,000 posts a month, give or take. So it's robust. And then obviously what's happening is I'm also running a huge number of projects that are pretty data heavy in themselves. So, and at the same time, what's happening is all that data, there's 97,000 posts, as soon as they come in, they're automatically having the tagging done, they're having the prioritization done, all that's happening in real time. So it will handle really sizable amounts of data. You can manage millions of posts on the Brandwatch side of things, doing the cut, slice, and dice as well. So from a data side, it really does scale.
Okay. And then our next question is, can you actually drill down to a specific demographic? In this case, the example is such as the Hispanic community.
So interesting. So what we have, let me just dive back in here. Let's not end the webinar. I just quickly dive here. And we'll go into Brandwatch side of things. Let's just go back up to the dashboard, create a new one quickly. So open this one up. So as we saw here, there are different ways. I mean, the challenge around saying the Hispanic community is how from social can we actually know whether the individual is in the Hispanic community with any sense of real reliability. The way that most people are approaching these things is twofold. One is you can identify authors via lots of different means, and you can actually create something called author lists within Brandwatch. And if I just open up this filter, if I click on author, you can see there are author lists that I can create. I can do that with CSV files. What you really want to do is you typically want those to be some sort of authenticated author, so you know this is an individual you've dealt with. Most clients tend to use that for things like key bloggers and those sorts of things. Actually, what you can also do is once that author list is created, you can use it as a filter so it can automatically tag that data for you. And again, on the HootSuite side, you can say, okay, show me this author list. When we come to the wider demographic side of things, if we go here, at the moment, what you're able to do is look at things like account type, whether it's an individual or an organization, gender and profession. But these are things that are self-stated. So we're looking at the bios, etc., within Twitter to identify that, whether it be professions or interests. and so on. So I think the answer I'd say is there are lots of ways to do it. There are do demographics, including self-reporting. At the moment, we can't say this is a Hispanic individual when we're looking at Twitter. However, the other way you can do it is you can find interest groups with it. So, and the way I'd sort of use this example is, let's say I'm an auto company. And I want to find all those people that are interested in cars. Actually, I can create a very simple query that's going to pull back and tell me, look, these are all the forums where people have car ownership conversations. So this would typically be your sort of ChevyOwners.com and so on. Now we can group all of those and we can call them car owners. So in fact, what you would probably do is go out and find, and that's predominantly actually based this around forums and blogs where people are talking about Hispanic issues. And of course, we can do that in English and Spanish, as well as the other languages. And then you would tag those sites as being around the Hispanic community, and then you would use that as your filter, and then that would automatically tag those, and then as those came into HootSuite, you would know. And of course, then yes, you can do your reporting around those as well. So again, talk to us. That's a very long answer. Talk to us afterwards. We can take you through how that works. We've done that sort of work before. If you're trying to do that sort of off the bat for something like Twitter bios and that sort of thing, I think you really do run the risk of getting fairly low reliability.
Okay. Next question. Is it possible to monitor LinkedIn-related content and conversations in public LinkedIn groups?
Kevin, that's probably a perfect one for you, I'd say.
So there are a number of APIs that we actually have access to within HootSuite that give you the ability to leverage LinkedIn. LinkedIn, unlike Facebook, doesn't necessarily have all of their functionality enabled via API. So depending upon what you want out of LinkedIn groups, we can do some of it. It would just be a matter of a specific use case. And if you're an existing customer, you could talk to your account manager or your account rep. If you're a new customer, as we set up time to walk through an in-depth demo, we can address that to meet your specific use case and specific needs.
Yeah, and I know I've definitely used this and had sort of most popular discussions coming out of my groups and LinkedIn updates and those sorts of things as well, used within HootSuite.
Yep.
Okay. And a good segue into that. What sort of materials are available for training?
From the HootSuite or from the Brandwatch side, is there a question? Is it specific or both?
Both.
I can address the HootSuite side. So from a HootSuite perspective, there is a broad set of videos and documentation available to all of our customers. There's also the ability to create, as I mentioned earlier, custom curriculum as we're doing with Syracuse University. So we're finding that companies are leveraging the content within HootSuite University that is about basic social media education, how to think about it, how to do it. What we're finding now is more and more companies are taking the next step and creating particular or a specific curriculum based on their specific needs. And again, they're doing that by business unit. They're doing that in the sales organization, the marketing organization, the HR organization, and even, as I mentioned, business operations and how that ties into what the ERP guys are doing. It can be as in-depth and as time intensive as need be, or it can be something that's pretty much out of the box, ready to go.
Yeah, let's say, I mean, again, you've got the sort of HootSuite University side of things. Obviously, in Brandwatch, you have the sort of portal, and so you're able to go in there and find documentation on how to use Brandwatch, not just obviously Brandwatch, but how to use Brandwatch in this environment, in the HootSuite environment. So there's collateral there. Again, as you can see, it's really very, very simple to actually use this within the HootSuite environment. So if you have questions, please do get in contact with either of us after the call.
Okay. And then I think we have time for one more. And that question is, how are custom queries created and defined? Who does that?
So the custom queries, of course, I did show you one there that was sort of probably looks a bit more like a math formula than English, but really the custom, there's a full service available, so we can build complex queries for you. And we can build those obviously at the top line. So we're saying we want authorizing conversations, but then of course there may be things that we're sponsoring that we don't want, and so on. We may have stadia. There may be other events that we're related to, but we don't want to measure as part of our overall Verizon conversation. So then we might say, so we can write those queries, and then we can also write the sub-queries, so those ones that help split up the information, split up those Verizon conversations into the different groups. We can also write the rules for you and those sorts of things. So there's a full service available to help with custom query creation. And of course, users have training, there's information in the support tool, and so on. So don't be put off by those. We can definitely help you through that.
All right. And that brings us to the end. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and we will follow up with the links to the slide deck as well as to view the recording. And if you would like any more information about this, then please feel free to get in touch. You can email us at info@brandwatch.com, or I believe it's the same for Hootsuite, right, Kevin? I think it's info@hootsuite.com.
Correct. Or feel free to email me directly at kevin.zellmer@hootsuite.com.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers.